everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Laura Pantin of Learning Bilingually. In today's video, I'm going to share some ways of organizing your dual language program. I'm going to share some examples of my own experience, which is to say that, of course, there are many variations and ways of organizing and creating schedules for your own dual language program, but these are just some of the ways that my partners and I have implemented in our own program. So just a little background information on our program. I teach in a two-way, side-by-side dual language bilingual education program. Two-way meaning that our students are a mix of Spanish native speakers and English native speakers, and side-by-side meaning that each grade level from kindergarten to 5th grade has a Spanish side teacher and an English side teacher, and we teach two groups of students in each grade level in our program. So the information I'm going to share is based off my own experience in a two-way, side-by-side, dual language, bilingual education program, but a lot of the schedules and charts and information I'm going to share can definitely be adapted to any other program type. An extremely important part of any successful dual language program is organization. And for us, that has meant schedules upon charts, and more charts. For teachers in dual language programs, there are several different things you have to consider before making curriculum-oriented decisions. If you teach two groups of students like we do in our side-by-side two-way dual language bilingual education program, you have to consider the language allocation plan. Is it going to be a daily split, a weekly split, a roller coaster model? You have to consider how are your literacy rotations going to look like for both of your groups of students. How are your math rotations and lessons going to look for both groups of students? How are your content area, your science and social studies lessons going to look like for both groups of students? And you have to also consider which teacher is teaching what for a specific unit and when. The first type of schedule we created was actually our daily schedule. For kindergarten, we created a sort of block schedule with a day A and a day B. The idea is that you and your partner teacher are both following the same day schedule. So, for example, Monday's day A, Tuesday day B, Wednesday day A, Thursday day B, Friday day A, and the following Monday is day B, Tuesday day A, Wednesday day B, Thursday day A, Friday day B. So in the span of a 2-week school week, so 10 days, you will have seen each of your groups for 5 days or 50% of the time. This format that we followed also meant that we started with the same group of students each morning, our homeroom or our morning group, and that we always switched after lunch to our other group of students or our PM or afternoon group. For the early grades, kindergarten and first grade especially, it is so crucial for the students to be receiving daily instruction in both languages, especially in this two-way, side-by-side dual language type of program model. This means that switching halfway through the day is the most optimal scheduling way to achieve this. This block schedule also allowed for us to make sure we weren't repeating any content or lessons, but rather have a fluidity amongst our two classrooms. Basically, let's say day A is on Monday, then both myself and my partner teacher would be doing calendar, poetry, shared reading, and then our literacy centers and reading groups at the same time, just with our own respective groups of students, and I, of course, would be teaching in Spanish. Then that same day, we would switch groups of students after lunch, and we would both then be doing our math centers and our writing and literacy workshops and our science and social studies lesson with our afternoon group of students. Then on Tuesday, we would both follow the day B schedule, which is basically day A, but flipped, which assures then that our homeroom group or our morning group of students is getting their math, writing, science, and or social studies in other language, and that our afternoon group of kiddos is getting their calendar, poetry, shared reading, and literacy centers, reading groups in the other language. An example of our schedule is this. Yes, this means that my partner and I have to be very much in sync and work very closely together to make sure that we are both on schedule. Now, for our upper grades, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, we do a full day with each group of students because the content matter takes longer to both teach and for the students to practice. So we felt that a full day in one language and with that teacher would be more appropriate for our upper and intermediate grades. This still means that my partner and I have to be very much in sync because we need to make sure each group is receiving the day's lessons and activities, because the next day they will be spending the day with the other teacher in the other language and will continue on their learning. Right here is an example of our daily schedule for our 4th grade dual language classroom. So in addition, for our math curriculum, we teach our math chapters utilizing math centers. So we have a whole separate chart for that. At the beginning of the unit, we rip the chapters out and send them home so students can work, practice at home with their parents, and that way the parents know the vocabulary we are using in class, and then they can also see what their child is learning in school. Basically, we decided that we would teach 5 centers at a time for the math skill we were working on, meaning that both my partner and I would have the same math centers happening in both our classrooms, but of course, in my room, all the centers were in Spanish, and in her room, all the centers were in English. We would have students go to 1 center per day in one language, and then the next day they go to the next center in the other language, and so forth. Basically, each group will get, out of those 5 centers, 2 in Spanish and 3 in English, or 3 in Spanish and 2 in English. Here's a sample of one of our math charts. As you can see, the children move to the next center the next day, just in the other language. For example, imagine group 1. This will be group 1's rotation through the math centers for the skill chapter. Monday, group 1 will go to center 1 in English. Tuesday, that same group, group 1, will go to center 2 in Spanish. Then Wednesday, they will go to center 3 in English. Thursday, center 4 in Spanish. And Friday, center 5 in English. This way, they are all receiving all of the math skills. Just half of the time, they are receiving them in Spanish, and the other half, they are receiving them in English. We also run our classrooms this way to ensure that we are being as efficient as possible with the time that we have with each group. We really only have about 2 hours or so with each group, and that way we can ensure that we also aren't repeating any contents. Now for our upper grades, for our 4th grade classroom, we had centers this way as well. We gave students a little bit more choice about the center that they were going to that day, but basically they used a checklist to make sure that they got through the 5 or 6 or 7 activities, but they would do 1 a day in one of the classrooms, and then the next day they would do the next activity in the other classroom in the other language. In terms of how we organize our literacy rotations, in kindergarten we used a literacy rotation chart like this one here. And we would put the students' names in their groups, and they would go to 4 centers a day. So they would go to 4 centers with me in Spanish in one day, and then they would go the next day to their literacy centers in the English side, and they would get 4 centers in English. And the following day, they would get their last 4 centers with me in Spanish, and the following day, they would get their last 4 centers with the English side teacher, for a total of 8 center rotations in Spanish and 8 center rotations in English a week. For our upper elementary grades, so for my 4th grade classroom, we used a checklist. So this was a more independent way of the students kind of knowing what their weekly activities were. And after we did our mini lessons for the different subject areas during the day, the students would have an opportunity to work on their checklist at their own leisure. Of course, we did put certain kind of rules in place. For example, if they were to go to an activity on the checklist, but there were already 4 to 5 students at that center or activity, then they would have to choose another activity for the time being. This way we could regulate the amount of kids in an activity, but the students really ultimately got to choose the activity that they were going to do that day. And they had to basically complete their checklist either by the end of the week or after 2 weeks, depending on how much was on the checklist or how much time we felt was needed to that particular checklist. We also have our very important thematic unit charts. For kindergarten, we teach our standards through thematic units. And for each thematic unit, we created a unit chart where we specify what graphic organizers, writing activities, collaborative group activities, technology, video, songs, poetry, read alouds we will be doing with each group of students and in which language. For this purpose, we call our morning group of kids our AM group and our afternoon group of students our PM group. Here is a sample of one of our unit charts. Now, in our upper elementary grades as well, we also are implementing thematic units. So we will be utilizing unit charts that look like this, but just are reflective of our 3rd, 4th, 5th grade standards. Finally, my partner and I do all of our parent-teacher conferences together. That is something that in a side-by-side dual language program, it is crucial to do at parent-teacher conferences. It's really important to have the Spanish side and the English side teacher present and available to show the parents the progress in both languages. And so when conference time comes around, we use the website Sign Up Genius to create time slots and dates for all our parents. And then once all the parents have signed up, we write in each parent's and student names on the box next to the time. And we have this kind of handy sheet throughout our conference time so we can mark off which parents we've seen, and we are on task with which parent is next, and the order of our conferences, and gathering all those student materials to show parents. So this is another great and simple tool we've employed to really help us stay organized, because it can be a little daunting to have so many conferences to do, but just keeping a simple organizer of what parents are coming and what parents we've already seen are next will definitely help keep us on track. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful and gathered some ideas about organization and scheduling in your dual language programs. I am going to include some additional resources from the Center for Applied Linguistics that you can reference when thinking about your dual language programs, organization, and structure. I'm going to link it in the description below. Thank you for watching this video. Please remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more dual language bilingual education content. Adios.